everybody, Andrew here. Friday afternoon, the 17th of January 2014, and today is the day where one of those sayings that you hear a lot has actually come true. And that saying is that good things come in small packages. And if that package happens to carry a particular logo on it, as in this logo, then you know that the likelihood is that it's going to be pretty good. And when the package is only this size, then it's really going to be something special. So what have we got in it? This is what we have got in it. The Nemesis Mini, or the Mini Nemesis. And it is pretty as a picture. I'm not sure how well you can see it here with all the lights and stuff, but there we've got our logo at the front. My serial number at the back, number 10. You also see that it's a mixture of naval brass and stainless steel. And then we've also got a ring around here at the top, which is naval brass. And then there's also brass on the inside there as well. But it is absolutely gorgeous. And one of the really striking things about it is the size of it. This is it will take basically 14,500 batteries and 14,650 batteries. So this is in 14,650 at the moment. And if we hold up beside that a normal Nemesis in the same size, you'll see height-wise it's a little bit bigger. This one is, the original one. But width-wise there is a huge difference between them. And when you're holding them in your hand, really there's just no comparison. This is so dinky. So I'm just going to pop something onto the top of it. This is 17 mils is the diameter of this. So I'm just going to put this on, which is a Sophia. And that's what it looks like there. And when you feel it, and this is, remember, this is the big size. This is the 14,650 size. It just feels so good in your hand. And it works just like any other Nemesis, you know. I mean, essentially what it is, it's just a Nemesis that's just been slimmed down. But with no compromise to anything. It's the same sort of switch at the bottom. You know, you can back off the switch and tighten up the switch. It's got the air control up at the top again. It is one of these, just made much, much smaller. And listen, what we'll do is we'll go down close on it, and I'll just sort of take it apart, show you all the bits, and then we can have a chat afterwards, because otherwise I'm just going to keep rabbiting on here about it. But really, I mean, really, fantastic. Right, so here's the bag that it comes in, very dark blue. Now, we're all artificial light here at the moment, so I'm not sure, you know, what you can see, but hopefully you can see it reasonably well, with the Atmomixani logo on the front of it. And then when we take the little darling out, there it is. So, as I think I mentioned earlier on, it comes in 14,650 mode. So in other words, it's got this extra tube on. So that's it at full size. And at full size, as I said before, it's a 17 mil wide. And let's just have a look and see what the length is. And this is with the switch screwed up fully. It comes out at, what are we now? We're 89 millimeters. So really very small. And looking around it, we have this, as I said, is a polished version, but there is a stainless steel version that you can get as well. But both of them also have naval brass in it. And so we have naval brass down here. We also have some here. And then there's also brass in at the top, as you can see there. So we can see the detailing there on the side, and then also there at the end. Now, the difference between naval brass and ordinary brass is naval brass, the alloy is a little bit different, so essentially it doesn't dull down quite as much, and it can, you know, it tends to stay brighter for longer, and I don't think it ever gets quite as dark and as matte as a normal brass. Our Atmomixani logo, or Atmomixani logo on the front there, which we've all come to know. On the base, Atmomixani, and we've got the train there, which is the same train from the front of the little bag. And then on the reverse side here, you've got the serial number. Now, many of you may know that serial numbers for the Nemesis are really quite important, you know, because there are registers out there where people actually have the names down, you know, so which I think is kind of useful because there's an awful lot of clones going around at the moment, and it's nice to know that if you're buying one off somebody that you're getting an original, because the original definitely are the business, you know. So that's that there. Let's just take it apart. If we go to the top cap here, and this is like any other Nemesis. So if you were to look at another Nemesis review, it would be pretty much the same. The only difference is this is much, much smaller. So looking at it here, brass on the inside there. We've got the adjustable pin, which is very easy to adjust because it's knurled at the end there. The pin is silver plated, and then on, you can see here, these little dots, that's basically airflow. So if you have them lined up like that, you're getting airflow. So airflow will come in from the bottom. So if you've got a flush mounted atomizer on the top of it, it will be able to get its air from underneath. And then by turning it around, you're basically turning off the air. So again, that would be fine for any atomizers that either have channels underneath them so that they're not completely flush mounted, or that get their airflow from the side. So that's it. It is, and then there's a bit of Delrin in the middle there, which the pin goes into. So this is a tried and trusted cap, if you like, or top. This is exactly what is on the other ones, and it just works extremely well. Now, going to the bottom, to the button. And let's just screw this off here. As you can see, as I screw off there, you can see that there's little channels at the side and there's threads coming out. One of the things about the Nemesis button is the fact that you're able to use it to adjust, which is fantastic. So that if you've got rattle in your battery or whatever, one battery slightly smaller or bigger than the other, you can use this to help adjust things. So again, this is a spring in it, as far as I know. I haven't looked, but I'd imagine it is. It really, I don't think, needs a magnet. I have magnets in my other ones, but it could be the fact that there's a limited width here. I mean, this is only 17 mils wide. On the wider ones, it could be that you get a little bit of sort of turning. If you push down on one side, it's a bigger area to maybe get caught. And that's why, now I never had a problem with the springs with the Nemesis, but I did find, you know, putting the magnets in and made it even smoother. But in this case, first of all, I don't know whether there's magnets available to this size. There probably is, but certainly so far I wouldn't even bother changing, to be honest, because it's as smooth as you like. Again, we have our silver plated post at the bottom there, which makes contact, brass around the side, and then our logoing at the bottom. So at the moment, when it's full size like that, what that's going to do is that is going to take a 14650 battery, something like that. Okay, so that's at full size. And then at smaller size, which is 14500, it's obviously going to take a 14500 battery, which in my case is something like that one there. Again, looking at the tube, and forgive my paw prints all over it. Again, beautiful Nemesis logo on the front. Serial numbers I mentioned on the back. This brass running around here, which looks fantastic. The brass piece here also acts as a locking ring, as you can see here. So that actually backs off, and you can see a couple of vent holes in there as well for if you're unlucky enough to have a battery going off on you. When you screw that down like that, that means that the button can't fire. So again, it's like the other Nemesis that are out there. It's very simple, but it works. And the threads, as ever, with all that Atmomixani stuff, are extremely good. They're not sort of crunchy or grindy in any way. And there's our big one to go back on top of it, and you can hear it just goes on nice and smooth. So that's it. And I suppose, you know, one of the striking things with this is it's just the quality of it. It's just absolutely beautiful, the way it's been made. Really is very striking. So let's put this back together. 14650 in this case. Obviously the positive goes up towards the top, so we'll just pop that in there for the moment. And then I'm just going to stick it onto this Sophia and the Sophia tank. Now, as with all Atties, what you're best off doing is, get it into camera, is screw the top on, like that, the cap, and then tighten up the little pin here, okay? Tighten that up, screw that in there, and then use the button there to actually tighten it up. And that's now connected and working fine. On some things that have got a longer post, and in this case with the Sophia you can actually make that as long or as short as you want. If I go for something else, if I say go for a K-Fun Mini, with the K-Fun Mini this post is really quite long in it. So in this case, again, what I'll do is I'll just take the top off. I'll slack the little post off here. I'll screw it on. And once I've got it screwed on fully like that, then I'll turn that to the point where it doesn't go any further. So now when I put this on, I know I'm going to have to slack the button off because the post is sticking out further. So that's as far as it goes. As you can see, there's a bit of a gap. So what that means is I have to now turn this back, turn that forward, so now it's perfect, and then I can tighten that up. So now I've got the K-Fun Mini, which has a longer post, which is still sitting perfectly on it. The only difference is that down here I've now got a bigger gap. But that doesn't matter because, I mean, that's where you have your movement anyway, and that's where you'd expect to see a gap anyhow, because that's where the button is. So that's now firing absolutely perfectly. Now in 14500 mode, I reckon that you're better off using a flat top rather than a nipple top. So there's a flat top there, there's a nipple top there. Because while I can get nearly everything onto it using a nipple top like that, there are a couple of them that they're just not sitting quite flush. So if I was to put on this one here, so this is the K-Fun Mini, and then tighten up the bottom there like that, screw this in here, slacken that off there, and then tighten up the bottom. So everything is fine at the top there, but there's a tiny little gap at the bottom. Now it still works absolutely perfectly, but there's a tiny little gap at the bottom there. And for some people that might irritate the hell out of them. So I think probably the best thing is you know, in terms of batteries, if you just use flat tops, that will then allow for pretty much any, you know, between the adjusting down here, the adjusting of the pins, etc, it'll allow for any kind of you know, a sort of a discrepancy, if you like, on the post that actually comes out of your atomizer. I'll just screw a couple of other things on here just to see what it's like. Now these aren't necessarily ones that would be right on this. I mean, here's a Pro Tank, so let's see what that does. It'll look horrible on it, but just purely in terms of the length of it. And let's see what happens here. And again, what we want to do is just tighten that up, put that on, and then tighten up the end there. And again, just a tiny little gap. It's not a gap that would worry me, but it certainly, I'm sure, would you know, upset some people. So again, I think what we need to do here is essentially use flat top 14500s. It doesn't seem to really matter in the 14650s. So there we have it. In 14500 mode there. And just by way of comparison, here's an Ego battery, an Ego Twist. It's got an Aspire BDC on it. And if we put the two of them side by side, you can see width-wise, the Nemesis Mini is just slightly wider. But when you look at, well, this is with this particular head on it, I mean, it's just such a dainty little package. And then we put, say, beside it my beloved brass Nemesis. There's that, and that's actually got a Nautilus on it at the moment, which I'm going to be doing a review on shortly. And we look at it sort of side by side. And again, this is in 18500 mode. This is obviously in 14500 mode, and you can actually you can see the difference there. So really is considerable, both in terms of the actual size, but also in terms of the weight as well, because it really weighs very, very little. So just have another go. It's going to be €130, which is the same price as the normal Nemesis. And I don't know, for me, I just think, you know, if you want to go out and you don't want to be carrying something terribly big, I mean, I regularly go out and I'll bring out Egos with me. Because sometimes you just don't want, you know, the weight of a big mod in your pocket, wherever it is that you're actually going. And for me, what will now happen is, this is what I'm going to be bringing with me instead of the Ego, because it's so elegant. It just works so well. There's no magnets in this. I haven't even looked at the prospect of magnets yet in relation to this, but the action on the button is really, really smooth and really good. And perhaps because of the size of it, you don't have as much kind of movement, lateral movement on it as you would on a bigger Nemesis or a bigger mod. Maybe that basically means that it's always going to stay more on train. So perhaps you'd never even need magnets for this, because frankly, that button for me is completely perfect. So not really much more that I can say about it, other than I think it's fantastic. I think the quality in this is it's second to none. It's Nemesis quality. So really what they've done is they've taken everything that they've learned over the last while, and the last year has been extraordinary for them in terms of all of the different items that they've been bringing out, the different versions of the Nemesis, and then also bringing out the Dome, you know, which is that totally configurable Genesis style atomizer, and then also subsequently the 3D dripper, which is the automatic dripper. They just seem to be on this roll where they're producing really, really good quality stuff, learning from one thing, moving on to the next, sticking with the things that work. I mean, when you look at this, there's nothing really different in this in comparison to the Nemesis. The only thing is the size. And I think that's right, because really for a mechanical mod, the Nemesis has everything that you could want. It works, it's got this sort of, that extra bit of movement within it, you know, between the pin at the top and the button at the bottom, which means that you can sort of facilitate most batteries within it. So it's got all of the things, all of the characteristics of a Nemesis, but just in a small, beautifully formed little package. So that's it. I'm not going to say anything more, apart from the fact that congratulations to Michalis and Katerina and all the people in Atmomixani. I think they played a blinder on this one, I really do, and I can see this selling every bit as well as the Nemesis. Yes, with a battery this size, you're not going to have as long a life, you know, and I'm not quite sure how long it's going to last, but at the same time, what's it saying here for the, this is for the 14650, this is saying 950 mAh. So, you know, you get a decent amount out of that. And when I look at, let me just have a quick look at the other one here. Of course, I should have prepared this earlier on. This here is 750 mAh. So again, you get a reasonable amount out of that. But I just think for sheer elegance, for sheer portability, for size, for, you know, even anybody who's sort of, you know, trying to do a bit of stealth vaping or whatever. I mean, look at this. This is really tiny. And, you know, you get a really small little dripper on top of that and it's going to virtually disappear in your hand. Incredible. So that's it. Fantastic product. What I'll do is on the, up there or wherever it is that I put it, I'll put up, you know, the address where you can actually buy it. And then also I'll put up the date that it's actually going to become available when I hear when it's going to become available. So thanks very much for watching as ever. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you again soon. Cheers!